Surrender, let go, let go, surrender, let go, let go, surrender, let go, let go, surrender.
Yay! That is my coach and friend and just person that I admire so much, Victoria Angel Hart. And we are here. This is Living Off Script. And this is where we interview people who, in my opinion, are really living a fully expressed, authentic, just a kick-ass life that they are designing for themselves. They have left behind all the layers of social programming, and everything that they do comes from their essence, their true, that true part of who they are. And Victoria couldn't be any more self-expressed. So I'm going to tell you about this woman, and we're going to talk a lot about how she is the way that she is and how she got here to where she is today. But let me give you a little bit of her bio. So Victoria Angel Hart is an executive coach. She is a ceremony musician, psychedelic guide, and she is the founder of Tap Into Freedom, which is a psychedelic EFT, or psychedelic tapping, for those of you who know what that is. And she brings people out of their minds and into their heart space, specializing in embodied intimacy, somatic healing, which she'll tell us more about what that all means. And she serves as a transformational guide for personal growth. She empowers clients to lead, to live, and to love fully expressed lives using music, meditation, EFT tapping, and psychedelic guidance to foster authentic, heart-centered transformation. So I am so excited to have you here. How are you today? You look gorgeous. You are radiant.
Yes, I am in deep celebration of spring, and we just had a full moon, and life is so full and so beautiful.
I love that. I know that you have been really living your dream lately. You are really finding your essence, where you belong. And I know this has been a journey going on for many years. I do believe that right now you're really, really, really just enjoying where you are. So tell us a little bit about that. Where are you right now?
Yeah,
What's
there's
going on in your
so
life?
many things to be celebrating right now. So first of all, I'm celebrating you and celebrating being here on this podcast. Thank you so much. It's been such a gift to get to watch your journey unfold and to support you for like 9 months now, like watching it
Yes,
all.
yes. If I didn't mention it, well, I did mention Victoria is my coach. And so, yes, we have been together for 9 months officially.
Yes, and so I'm really celebrating. This week I'm featured on Avaya University. They are having a somatic healing super summit, and two of my longtime teachers and inspirations, Dr. Richard Schwartz and I was just thinking about him. Actually, one of my songs, so he's the founder of IFS, and so I'm
Yes.
featured on a summit that he's featured on this week. And the thing that I love is that last year I got to meet him, and I wrote a song that you can listen to on Spotify called Save With Me, the Internal Family Systems Anthem, and he loved it. And so
I
it has been
love that. I
IFS
didn't know
approved.
that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That is amazing. That is
Yes.
such a big deal.
Yes, and so is Peter Levine. So he's also featured on this summit. And so it's really amazing because he is, the founder of somatic experiencing. And so much of the work that I do is rooted in what he started. So to be featured on a summit with two of my deepest teachers is really incredible. And so I'm celebrating that right now. And there's so much more. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Wow, amazing. All right, well, let's dive in. I want everyone that's listening to learn about you, to really learn about your journey, starting out with, how you grew up and maybe spending a little bit of time on if there was a pivotal point in your life when you were like, fuck this.
Yes.
And I am not this person. I am intentionally going to be going this way.
Yeah.
So I want to learn a little bit about that and obviously learn a lot more about once that happened, that pivoting, the journey that has taken you where you are right now.
I could talk for hours about this. But the
Yes.
TLDR is I grew up in Kentucky in a very religious, my family was the Southern Baptist sort of very very intense, like go to church every time the doors are open. My whole life revolved around church. And so I grew up pretty much indoctrinated in a view of the Bible that was pretty literalist, like the earth is only a few thousand years old and like just so much stuff that my rational brain as I got older and started thinking about it, I was like, wait, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, wait,
Right.
how is no. But I was so surrounded and that was the only thing I knew. And so I had two pivotal moments in my desire to break out of the box that I grew up in because I was always coming to church wearing these super sexy hot outfits and just like feeling so fully expressed at church and like being super not aligned with the dress
Yeah.
code of everyone else at church. But like
I
wearing
can imagine that.
this is me like 15 years old looking super hot for church because that was the only place I went really. And so my growing up though it revolved a lot around music and it revolved around education. And so I started singing in a professional children's choir when I was 9 and I toured Europe when I was 12 and then I started joining my church's adult choir around that same time. I also started my church's first like children's church for the evening. We had a huge church. It was like one of those like giant churches. So I would
Yeah.
have like 25 to 50 kids that I was responsible for teaching every
Wow.
Sunday night, starting when I was 13, 14. So I was super gung-ho about education and being a teacher and music. And so those things have been threads that continue on. But I was very much trapped in this system of thinking and this view of the world that told me I was going to go to college, I was going to get married, and I was going to have kids, and I was going to do all those things before I was like 25. And so that's not what happened. And instead, what happened for me was I went on this quest in college. I realized I liked girls. I was actually madly in love with my best friend, Kelsey. Hi, Kelsey. And I didn't know how to reconcile the fact that ever since I was 4, actually, I knew that I had liked girls, but I watched my great uncle get excommunicated from my family for being gay. And so I had to suppress my own sexuality. And so when I was in college, I really wanted to know, what does the Bible say about being gay? And like, can I still be a Christian and also like be who I am? Because to me, being gay, and I don't even identify as gay anymore, but at the time that was the only word I knew. It was like you're gay or you're straight. Like
Right.
back in the
Yeah,
day, there
those
were
were the
the
only
whole
options.
the alphabet soup of labels did not exist to me
Yes.
back then. And so I went to Oxford in England and studied theology to find out what the Bible says about gay people. And what these
Wow.
old dead white dudes have to say about it is that you can be gay as long as you don't do anything about it. So you can be gay in your head, but as soon as you act on it, then you're going to hell.
Oh my gosh. Of
And
course.
so
Yeah.
that was the day that I decided I wasn't a Christian anymore. And that there was no way I could be a part of a religion. Because being gay to me was like having blue eyes. Like, I can't help it. I'm left handed. I have blue eyes. These are just parts of me. And the fact that, like, I want to express myself sexually with women just felt like just who I was. And so
Right.
I had this sort of internal awakening around age 21 but I wasn't able to act on that because of the culture I was in Kentucky. So I came back home from England and I enrolled in this program called Teach for America. And so I was a teacher in Teach for America, and I got sent to New York City to be a school operations manager for a summer. And I, in the meantime, had just sort of set aside everything I had learned at Oxford about myself and just pushed it all back down so I could fit in this community. And then I moved to New York City, and everyone was gay. It was this wild moment of being like, oh, in Kentucky at the time, gay marriage was still illegal. And so I met people who for the first time were free, and they were expressing themselves in ways that I didn't even know existed. And I was learning about LGBTQIA, all of the letters, and getting an experience of that, while at the same time I was engaged to a man. And I was on my way. I had a wedding dress, I had a venue, everything was totally prepared. And then on the most auspicious day of my life, 7/7/14, I woke up and I realized that I had been lying to myself for pretty much my entire life, and that I couldn't lie to myself for another day. I'd had this glimpse of it at Oxford, but I had shoved it back down. And now here I was supposed to marry a man and be trapped in this life. And he was not a good man. And he was someone who was violent and abusive. And I saw that my children, if I had them with him, would suffer. And I saw that my own life would be so limited if I married him. And so I call that my authenticity birthday. And it's been an entire decade now. It'll be 11 years in July. And that was the day that I declared to myself, like, I like girls, and I have liked girls since I was 4, and I'm not going to marry this man who is going to limit my expression. And so I came back from that summer in New York and started slowly coming out. And along the way, I lost a lot. I came out at my school. I came out to all my students. I almost lost my job, but I planned for this. So I saved a bunch of money before I came out. And then I actually got a Fulbright. So I was able to exit stage left and immediately exit the country and go to Taiwan, which was a very liberal democracy, to do my Fulbright so that I would have a chance to get away from my family, from the community, from all the world that I had built that I no longer fit in. I needed a clean break in order to find out who I actually was.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, first of all, yay! What's to celebrate? Oh my gosh. I love that date. 7/7/14.
I know. It's so auspicious.
Talk about auspiciousness for sure. I have so many questions. So just to kind of summarize, so you grew up in a very conservative town, very religious, grew up very religious, it sounds like, kind of forced down your throat, or never really knew anything else. You really didn't know there was anything else. And then lots of questions of your own, kind of coming about as you were becoming an adult.
Yeah.
And you found clarity in some way, especially with, your sexuality, right? Like your sexual self-expression, to really find that it is something like your blue eyes, your left-handedness, and some things that we're just, again, who we are. We have no choice. And to be controlled in a certain way, told what you're allowed or not allowed to express about yourself, just felt so wrong. And definitely not something that you would consider something to follow, especially in a religion that's supposed to be about
love.
Love, exactly.
That was my biggest takeaway from Oxford. Is my final paper was, there was a French philosopher named Jacques Dupuy, and he wrote a book called Toward a Theology of Religious Pluralism. And I read that book. Man, it is such a long, gigantic book, and Oxford is a crazy place. You basically go in, you read a book, they have a thesis, and then you argue a position a week later of your own unique perspective. And what I got from that, and what my last paper was on, I'd love to share it with you or the audience if y'all want to read it, was that God is just love, and God exists as love within every religion, and there is no separation between the expressions that we have all across the earth. And I was like, that is what I'm all about. I want God as love, not God as hate and dogma and separation and rules.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And so you essentially left the church, declared yourself not religious, and removed yourself from that world,
Yeah.
including being engaged to a person that you knew now that you were, more aware of yourself, more aware about a lot of things that life just was not going to fit you, that you were going to be very, very sad, very miserable, and definitely not like you were not going to be allowed to be you in that
Yeah,
world.
there's one thing I really want to say about that because it does inform a lot of what I've done since then. I grew up being abused by both of my parents, especially my father. And so I thought abuse was normal. I thought that being yelled at, cussed at, screamed at, and having physical violence put on me was love. That
Yeah,
is what I thought love
I'm so
was.
sorry.
And when I was engaged, it was the exact same way, except it was a little more intense. He did pull a gun on me, threatened to kill me. And that was the day, hiding in a bathroom, that I saw as I was crouched in this tub, wondering if I was about to die. Like, this isn't normal.
Right.
This isn't a healthy relationship. And so that was my first wake up clue that I couldn't marry this man, which led to me exploring my sexuality of like, am I even attracted to him? And so we haven't even come into the work that I do, but the work that I do all began when I started tracking how much I hated having sex with him and how my body felt so closed and how I was doing it out of a sense of obligation because that's what a good Christian woman would do. You have
Oh,
sex with your husband because you're supposed to. And I realized that my body, I got like this horrible infection and my body was so sick and everything inside of me was screaming, don't fucking do this. And it
right,
took
right.
me months to listen. But once I was in New York City and I started seeing healthy models of relationships all around me and I started sharing more vulnerably about my relationship, people were like, he's abusive, leave him. And
Oh,
like, this is not okay. And
right.
that was my first experience of that. And so I declared when I left that relationship that I would never let a man abuse me again. And that in a lot of ways was the beginning of my work now with embodied intimacy because nobody taught me boundaries. Nobody taught me how to speak up for my needs. Nobody taught me how to express my desires. They just told me to shut up, submit, and be a good wife. And
Right.
I absolutely cannot do those things.
Right. No, and you know what? I mean, right now when you said that in that moment, or when you started tracking, right? When you started tracking and you were actually listening to your body, when you were doing those things that you were supposed to do, I imagine there are so many people that are going to be listening that will resonate
Yeah,
because that is what often we are taught
yeah,
in these conservative realms, or even just whether it's super conservative or not, but in our society, that there are boxes that we have to put ourselves in,
yeah,
and we're not taught how to listen to our body when we're actually submitting, or we are just checking the box of being a good wife, being a good girl, being even a good friend, a good daughter, a
yeah.
good whatever. So I just find it so powerful, and I can't wait to dive deeper into the next part of your life.
Yeah.
Obviously, I just want to make sure that our listeners understand the risk that you took, because you did lose
My whole family,
probably a
my whole
lot.
life,
I'm sure that at this
everything.
point, yeah, at this point, you know that it was for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, I guess I have to ask you if you have any regrets.
Mm.
I would assume there are no regrets, but I would also assume that it wasn't easy necessarily.
Oh, I feel tears coming. The only regret I have is not telling my dad sooner because he was the only one in my family who still loved me.
Oh,
And to feel his support. I was so scared to come out to both of my parents, and I had written a blog post, 7 reasons why I would never choose to be a minority. Because in Kentucky at that point, the prevailing thought was you are choosing to be gay. And to me, I was like, there's no possible way I could have chosen to make my life more difficult. And I had just come from Oxford, so I was very in my, like, I'm going to argue everything. And, like, let me tell you all of the details of, like, every point. And so I wrote this blog post, and I just left it up on my dad's computer. And I just drove away. And I was like, I wrote something, and I need you to read it and call me back. And he called me back sobbing. It was just like, thank you for telling me I love you so much. This doesn't change anything. Like, will you come back? And that was vastly different from how everyone else in my family responded. And so he was really the only person who stayed with me in full unconditional love. And so if anyone here is listening, like, there are people who will support you. And even if the majority of people will not support you, and these are people who you have loved and who have loved you your whole life, there are some nuggets of beautiful humans who will still be supportive, and you get the choice to find the ones and create the family around you who does accept and support the authentic, the real, the true you.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So your only regret was not telling him sooner because he was so supportive and so loving and
Yeah.
accepted you no matter what. His
Yeah.
love was actually unconditional.
Yeah.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And then of course we have probably the other side of it, right? The people that did not support you.
Yeah. That was really tough. Hearing, I love you, but I can't accept you. Don't bring this home. Like, don't bring a partner home. Like, don't put this in my face. Like, I love you, but I'll never accept this behavior. That coming from the other side, my mother's whole side of the family, was just devastating. But I knew it was coming. I 100% knew it was coming because they had done it to my great uncle when I was young. And so I saw him get excommunicated. So I knew that it would happen. But the happy ending is that I have since I now identify as pansexual to anyone who might be interested in me. Across all gender spectrum. What I found is that I love the love that's inside of someone's soul and that deep connection that I feel with them in deep attuned presence way more than the body parts that they have. And that is something I didn't have words for at the time. And to me, because I grew up with a very cold mother who was not nurturing, who doesn't have empathy, who doesn't have any kind of connection to embodiment or love, I sought that out in women because I didn't get it growing up. And that makes so much sense. And I'm sure there's lots of people who've had that same experience. But then once I started getting that experience and I started realizing, oh, I can actually be the mother I didn't have. And I can start giving to other people the love and the care and the nurturing and the sweetness and the all-encompassing, just like unconditional love. I can be what I needed. That really opened up my whole view of the world, and it expanded my sexuality a lot because I didn't need somebody to fill a hole that I had. Inside, I filled the hole from the inside out. And so then I was just open to just be love with the people who came into my field. And that was a massive shift for me.
Right. Oh my gosh, but it's so beautiful and there's so much there that, I'm sure our listeners are going to just love to get to that point where you are that love that you seek and that you don't need someone to fill that role for you to feel whole, for you to feel, complete in some way. So that's amazing. That's like we could do a podcast just about that.
I want to give a little anecdote here on that, and then we can keep going. Yes. I think this is probably the most important experience I had around this, and I really want to share it with listeners because we all have the capacity to have this same experience. I wrote a Facebook post about it, and I've reposted it several times, but it's this metaphor of a garage door to my heart. And I had a garage door growing up, and so this is very visceral to me. I had this garage door that on the outside it had a handle, and when it was locked, like no amount of jiggling the handle would get it to go up and down. And I just imagined that for my whole life, when it came to love, I had this garage door in front of my heart, and I just begged people to open the garage door. I was like, yank it, throw things at it, like shake it, like whatever the fuck you can do to try to get this garage door open. Push the button, click the button. And I would beg people to do that, and it would never open. And then one day, I was sitting in meditation, and we're skipping many chapters ahead in the story. I became a meditation teacher, almost became a Buddhist nun, until I realized I like sex way too much to be a nun. And I was sitting in meditation, and I realized that this hole that I had been trying to fill from the outside, this garage door that I wanted to be opened by someone else, I was sitting inside the garage door, and the clicker was in my hand. And all I had to do was push the button, and my own heart would open.
Oh, wow.
And that was the pivotal moment that my whole perspective in life and love shifted.
That's amazing. I love that not only did you have that moment, and you also sought out the tools, if you didn't have them already, but to actually be able to embody that. There's a lot of information that we have, right? That we are like, oh yes, I understand this concept. And yet a lot of people are, and all of us, we have a really hard time actually doing the thing that gets us where we want to be. And so that is amazing. So yes, let's jump forward. So tell me about what happens there, and what is your journey after you are intentionally leaning into, I am going to be myself, and I'm going to explore all the parts of me. And yes, I want to know more about that.
Yeah. Well, when I was in Taiwan, I met a woman on Tinder my 4th day. And back in the day, a decade ago, Tinder showed you your friends in common. Mm-hmm. And so I had a friend in common with a woman in Taiwan, which was baffling. He was from Kentucky. And so he messaged me, and he's like, hey, do you know like this person in Taiwan? I think you matched with her on Tinder, and she's a friend of mine, but are you gay?
That's funny.
And so I had to come out again. Coming out was this whole fucking process, being from the South. And I was like, yeah, I am. He's like, go on a date with her. And then we super hit it off. And she was my partner for the entire year I lived in Taiwan. Her name is Chu, and I will always be so indebted to her. She came out to her family while I was in Taiwan, and they were all like, duh, of course we've known forever. And we love you. And we love Victoria. So I got to experience being in a same-sex relationship that was totally public. She was, at the time, you're never going to believe this, Leslie. I hated being touched.
Really?
Especially in public. Mm-hmm. I was like, do not, why do you have so much affection? Like, stop touching me. Because that was how I was raised, that public displays of affection were wrong and bad and shameful, and that you were a slut if you were kissing in public. Like, I had all these stories, and Chu just like knocked them down one after another. And so that whole year, I remember once we like kissed on a very long escalator, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. And now I teach about sex publicly. So what a difference a decade can make.
What a difference a decade. Oh yes, I love it.
Yeah, so I came back from Taiwan, and I was still teaching, and I remember sitting at my desk, and I hated my teaching job in America. It was at a charter school that was not aligned, and Trump had just gotten elected, and I hated everything. Yes. And so I remember sitting there, and I had this moment. I'd been meditating at this point for 3 or 4 years, and I had lived partially some at this Buddhist monastery in Taiwan after my Fulbright, and so I had gone super deep down the Buddhist rabbit hole, and I remember just tracking, I have a job that I don't like, to make money that I don't even really need, to buy shit that I also don't need, to impress people that I don't really like.
Right.
What the fuck? And so I had this wake-up call in that moment, like, I can't keep doing this. I hate this. And at the time I was dating the most important woman in my whole life. Her name then was Katie. She goes by Kat now. And she looked at me and she's like, well, what does your soul want? And I was like, my soul? I've never talked to my soul. I don't know. And then my soul spoke and it was like, move to Denver and teach meditation.
Huh.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
How can I possibly do that? And then I learned that there were actually PhD programs for education around mindfulness. And so that was what I ended up doing. I moved to Denver and I spent a summer living at a Buddhist monastery trying to become a nun in between.
Yes.
And then when
we know it didn't work out.
did not work out. Katie and the sex and everything was just too good. But I learned so much in that time living at Thich Nhat Hanh's monastery, I would say more than anything has had the most long-lasting influence on who I am now. Like, I credit so much of my work as a teacher and guide in this world to my time living at the monastery. And just so much gratitude for this woman. Her name is Sister D. And if you look her up, she has some incredible books, some amazing talks. I love her so much. So basically, I was in Denver, started my PhD, got a full ride in my PhD, was super stoked. And then I had this moment of realizing that yet again, I was just doing something because I was supposed to. I already had a master's in education. I had a Fulbright. I had done Teach for America. I'd gone to Oxford. I had checked every fucking box possible that should have equaled my mom loves me by now.
Yeah.
And yet, here I was getting a PhD, and I realized in a workshop, in a personal growth workshop, that most of this was just so that my mom would finally love me. If I just had a PhD, then she would love me. And in that moment, I realized that that was a terrible reason to be in school for 5 years.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And that what I actually wanted to do was not be a researcher. I wanted to teach people mindfulness. I had taught it to my students in Kentucky and in Taiwan and back at the charter school. And so I knew the power of mindfulness. And so I got into UCLA's meditation teacher training program. I was the youngest person they'd ever let in. And I quit my PhD and it was not aligned. It was not a fit. They agreed. They were like, yeah, this doesn't work for us. And I was like, great, this does not work for me. And so I became a meditation teacher and got a very strong soul calling. It said, move to Hawaii and teach at a retreat center. And I had never been to Hawaii. I didn't even know there were multiple islands. I just thought it was Hawaii. Yeah. One island.
One island.
And so that's what I did the day after I graduated from meditation teacher training, which was 11/11. Wow. Another auspicious date. On 11/11, I got on a plane and moved to Hawaii because in the meantime, I had discovered Ram Dass. And his teachings were the perfect blend of Buddhism and Hinduism and Judaism and just spirituality. And it was like everything I had already figured out in my many years of meditating, he perfectly explained it in this way that was like, duh. And I was like, yeah. I want to learn from this guy.
Yes. Amazing. Okay, yeah. So then you went to Hawaii, right?
I did for 5 years. I meant to go for 5 weeks.
Wow. And so what was that like, those 5 years?
Well, they say that Maui is like Eden, and it is really that way. My time on Maui shaped me more than my time living anywhere, because I got to be with people who were just fully themselves. My first Friday night in Maui, I went to a drum circle and there were naked people. I'd never been to a naked beach before, and now here I was surrounded by sea turtles on the beach and a beautiful sunset and drums and all these naked people. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like wearing like a full outfit. And I was like, can I do it? Can I take my clothes off? And then I did it and I danced and I was so free. Oh my gosh. You know how constricting bathing suits are.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. So here I was naked dancing on a beach and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, people are like filming and like people are just like hugging. I'm like, you're hugging naked. Oh my God. And
I love
so I had this experience of really getting to understand what it was like to live a lot closer to the land and a lot more like our ancestors did. So I stopped doing all of the beauty things. I stopped wearing makeup. I stopped coloring my hair. I stopped shaving. I stopped wearing shoes. At some point, I also stopped wearing underwear, but then I realized I actually really like underwear, so I put them back on. But shoes, I stopped wearing bras, man. I haven't worn a bra in like a decade. And like that is so liberating. So there were these ways that I was like rebelling against my upbringing in Kentucky that told me like you must always have makeup on, your hair must always be fixed, you must always have on a bra, you always have to have matching shoes, like no whites after Labor Day, like the whole 9 yards. Here I was in Maui and it was like I got reprogrammed, but it was reprogrammed from a place of authenticity where the people there didn't care what I looked like, they cared about my being. And
Right.
so
And it sounds like then you were allowed and you were just, yeah, you were allowed to choose. Like you were choosing.
yeah.
Nobody was telling you you have to do it this way when you're here. It was more like, hey, this is just a place where you can choose what you want, what you like. Like you said, underwear you chose because then you realize, no, I actually do like underwear.
Totally.
So, so it was you actually even getting to know yourself.
Yeah, I figured out so much about myself. And I was seen there in a way that I had never been seen in America. Like at the time, so I really loved music, but at the time I didn't believe that I was ever going to be a musician. Even though I studied music in college, had the lead in an opera, had been in this children's choir, had been taking voice lessons for like 15 years, I still didn't consider myself a musician because I couldn't ever remember other people's songs. And I would like get the words wrong or I'd be off pitch or my rhythm would be bad. And so I just thought, I'm not really a musician. But I had one song by this amazing band that really opened me to being a spiritual being called Nako and Medicine for the People. And it was called Aloha Keakua, which means love God. And I memorized this song. And so my second night on Maui, I went to this incredible Thanksgiving potluck and they were like, who wants to share? And I went up on stage and I guided a meditation and sang this song. And Blue Mountain, who was the steward of that land, who bless his heart, he died a few years ago, just honoring Blue Mountain so much. He turned to me and he said, who are you? And how long have you been here? And I was like, I'm Victoria Angelheart and I've been on Maui for 2 days. And they were like, welcome home.
Completely new woman.
Yeah. And it really did feel like it was the first place on earth that I belonged, and belonging to the land and belonging to the people and belonging to nature and belonging to the water and belonging to the songs. So that's the thing I really want to share about full expression, because Leslie's currently in my class, Tap Into Your Voice, where I'm helping her and everyone else to be able to unlock their own songs from their own souls. This journey started for me. My second week in Maui, I put my feet in the Iao River and heard songs in my head, and it freaked me the fuck out. I was like, what is happening? But I grabbed my phone and I started recording, and that day, just like one after another, 7 songs and a spoken word poured out of me.
Wow.
And I was so in awe because I didn't believe I was a musician, as I told you. But every one of the songs, like the pitch was perfect, the rhythm was good, like everything sounded great. And I was like, but that doesn't track to everything I've done before. So I went to Gabriel Wolfchild, who was one of my beautiful soul mentors and musical mentors, and I was like, I'm so afraid, but I wrote a song today. Will you come in this closet with the lights out so I can sing to you, because I'm so terrified and I don't want to see your face while I do this? Yeah. And I sang to him the song that had come through me. And I was shaking and I was so vulnerable. It was the most vulnerable moment for me because I'd never written a song. And he was professional. He had been touring. And to share what had come out of my heart with someone who knew what they were talking about was a big deal. And I was so scared. But at the end of the song, Gabriel turns on the light, grabs me by the shoulders and is like, you are a musician. Come with me. And he took me up. His dad was Blue Mountain. I was back at that beautiful sanctuary, and he put a guitar in my hand, tuned it to this thing called dadgad, which means you can't really play a wrong note. And lo and behold, he taught me how to play the guitar and strum and was like, you're a musician. Play. And so that is really what started unlocking my full expression was that moment, someone seeing me, someone believing in me, and the universe being able to come through me. I see myself as a conduit of love and an instrument of grace. And that comes because I'm no longer caring about judgment. I'm no longer caring about fitting in. I'm no longer caring about what anyone thinks about what is happening inside of me or how I'm presenting. I'm just present with what is real and what's flowing in me. And what's flowing in me is most of the time a song.
Oh, I love this. I love this so much. Oh my gosh. So it's just beautiful to hear you explain and express what I believe most of us, I would say, really, really want. We don't want to care about judgment, what people think, what, you know, how you present. Like, we all just want to be in the moment with ourselves and be authentic. So I just love everything that you're speaking about. So, and I imagine that this is all related to like what you're doing now,
Yeah.
because I would imagine that having that experience and living so fully expressed, you want others to experience that
Yes.
and to learn that, to learn from you and from your journey.
Yeah.
So tell me more. I know we talked a little bit about your bio, but I would love for the audience to really understand what it is that you do.
I'm a multifaceted creatrix of love and liberation, so I do a lot of things. But ultimately what I'm existing in this form for is to inspire and empower everyone I work with to lead and live with love so that they can be fully expressed in themselves. And a lot of that comes through executive coaching, which I got into when I lived on Maui in a wild story we probably don't have time for. But the universe was like, you are meant to be an executive coach. And I was like, huh. I don't know about that. And then it was like, yes. And so I've been doing executive coaching since 2020. And I've worked with so many people in the tech field who came to me. So I became a featured teacher on the Insight Timer, teaching meditation every day during the pandemic. And I have like a million streams of my meditations. You can check those out online. And I got really deep into helping people stop being human doings and come back into being human beings. So that is still at the base level, the work that I do now. And you've experienced it firsthand. Like you've come in overthinking. And I'm like, Leslie, we're going to drop down. Yeah. Do you have anything
Yeah.
you want to say about that? Like your own experience of working with me with that?
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, especially as I love how you always speak about tracking because I've worked with different people. I've had different coaches, counselors, and I think that tracking, it's just such a key element. And I know for me working with you, there's not one time that I haven't been able to track a significant difference from how I've shown up. And I'm just talking about, well, first in each session. So showing up overwhelmed, tears about, just very emotional, very overwhelmed to just feeling grounded, calm, centered, just feeling like the universe got me. And then of course, on a longer term perspective, I am able to track so many different things in myself from working with you that are just amazing. And again, in my self-expression, in the way that I have in the past been someone that doesn't necessarily care a lot about what people think. And there's still a lot of layers there that going deeper, I'm like, well, no, there's a lot of programming that goes a lot, deeper and beyond just caring what other people think. And so you've been able to help me tremendously with that and really, really getting very clear, gaining clarity on the life that I want to live and how I want to show up. So absolutely. It's
Yeah.
been amazing.
And the thing that I haven't mentioned is since I quit being a teacher, I now have 16 certifications in so many personal growth modalities. I decided I was going to go hard. And to be able to be the best coach that I could be, I needed to develop a broad set of skills. And so I trained first in psychedelic NLP. And a lot of the things that we do together in sessions are based in, it's called neuro-linguistic programming. And it's how do I consciously use my mind and my language patterns to shift my perspective on reality and create what I want to have in the world rather than what I have been indoctrinated to have in the world. And so I just want to honor all of the teachers that I've had from all these different modalities. And the thing that we do the most, Leslie mentioned it earlier, is the tapping, EFT, the emotional freedom technique. And I have 4 certifications in this, specifically in helping people to overcome trauma. Because I, as you know, was abused as a child, and I was in a very, very abusive relationship. And that fucks you up. And when you're traumatized, you don't have access to what they call the window of tolerance. And we've talked about the window of tolerance. And so what I'm offering now in my sessions is a way to learn to somatically regulate the body by releasing the old somatically stored stress and trauma so that we can actually show up and be here present with each other now. Because one of the things I've found about teaching meditation is that people who have trauma can't really meditate because they don't feel safe in their body. And until you feel safe in your body, nowhere's going to feel safe and no relationship is going to be safe. And a lot of the work that I do, as you know, because you've experienced it firsthand, is about sex and relationships. And we didn't even really get into that entire can of worms, but the TLDR is I came into doing sexual healing work through my own healing of my own sexual trauma from being assaulted by a massage therapist on Maui my second week on Maui, and then being assaulted by my music producer a couple years later. And in both cases, those experiences left an imprint in my body that led to me closing down sexually and not feeling safe to express myself again. And I discovered Tantra, and I discovered somatic sex education, and I discovered sexological bodywork. And so I did these modalities for my own healing. And I recognized, oh my God, these work. and so I was able to free my voice. I have a song, if you want to look it up on YouTube, it's called Loud, a women's empowerment anthem for sexual assault survivors. It's my favorite song I've ever released. It has a really powerful music video. And that song, and it encapsulates the work that I do now, because what I want is for everyone to not be stuck in a victim story, but instead to recognize that we are healing and that we have power and that we can be free. No matter what has happened to you, you can learn to heal from the inside out so that you can experience the fullness of who you are. And a lot of that work for me has come through psychedelics and through tapping. So right now, as you know, because you've done it all with me, this work is a fusion of mind, body, and spirit. It's the mind is doing the tapping, the body is doing the somatic sex education practices, and the spirit is using the psychedelics. And as we combine those things, we're really able to experience what it's like to be in a state of wholeness and connection and love, and really to imprint on a visceral felt sense level that okayness, like I am okay. I am okay. Right now, here and now in my body, I am safe and I'm okay. And from that place of being okay, then we can start to express, what is it that I need? What is it that I desire? What is it I'm ready to let go of? What is it that I want to call in? And that's how my work is so empowering and effective, is because we go through all of the steps to drop into the body, to cultivate the safety, to release the old stored emotions, and then to create the conscious new reality. And you are like living proof of that.
Yes, I am. And I just love the way that you put it, because as you said, I feel like unless we feel so safe in our body, most people will not be able to access their true desires for their life. I would think that it's very difficult, it's very challenging if you are not, if your nervous system is constantly in fight or flight or freeze or fawn or whatever it may be, to really even have the capacity
Yeah.
to dream, to feel, hey, what do I really want? Like you're basically on pure survival, even if it doesn't seem like it,
Yes.
because we get used to feeling a certain way and we think
Hmm.
it's normal.
Totally.
And
And one
yeah.
thing you're reminding me that I didn't mention is because of my this is so funny how life works. I learned mindful hugging living at the monastery and then was teaching mindful hugging in a meditation class on Maui. And my boyfriend at the time was like, you know, you could get paid for this. There are people who do this, right? And I was like, what? It's like professional cuddling. And so I became a professional cuddler because I really wanted to teach people how to be in their bodies and to downregulate so they did have a felt sense of safety. So a lot of my sessions when they're in person, well, pretty much all of my sessions in person start with that downregulation and that connection because sometimes you need another body to tell your body what safety
Hmm.
feels like.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that sense of co-regulation can be such a profound tool that I love to offer clients when we work in person. But we can even do it over Zoom. Like when I guide you in a meditation, there's that sense of you feel through my voice, through the
Absolutely.
frequency, and through that felt sense inside of me. It comes through, it's coming into the viewers right now. Like, I
Hmm.
am here, I am present. I am safe, I'm okay. And so it starts to rewire and repattern the nervous system.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love so many, I mean, I love everything that you do, but so many things that you're saying. And I just want to kind of summarize for our listeners that the way that I would explain it to someone is that you have gone really deep into so many modalities to be able to offer a really deep dive into nervous system downregulation, obviously using different tools, psychedelics, sexuality, tapping, your
Meditation.
voice, singing,
Oh, yeah.
these beautiful medicine songs, and kind of putting it all together to help people again be able to be in their bodies, be present in their own life, feeling safe and secure to be able to then figure out like who am I and what kind of a life experience do I truly want and just kind of be able to release all the other stuff that's not serving them. So, and I don't know, I don't know if I did that justice, but I just find you to be just such a like a holistic, and when we talk about holistic approaches, this is very, very, very holistic and very different, but
Mm.
so integral to healing because, in my perspective, also sexuality is you can't put it aside. You can't be like, I'm going to heal this part of me, but I'm going to
Yeah.
dismiss and ignore my sexuality and pretend like
Hmm.
we're going to heal. Like you really have to put it all together. It is, we're all one.
That is why, okay, I'm so glad you're reminding me of this because some people are like, well, how are you an executive coach, but why do you focus on sexuality? And it's because I was working with executives, I was coaching them in a very bizarre way. Most of my executive coaching clients came through professional cuddling because most of
Mhm.
my executive coaching clients were men who were in relationships where they weren't having sex anymore, or all their family was back in a country like India, or they have never had a girlfriend. And so they don't have their touch needs met. And because they are suffering sexually or just suffering because of the lack of touch, it's showing up and impacting them at work and the decisions that they make and the way that they interact with their employees. And some of them have been like, it comes out sideways and then they like make sexually aggressive or harassing comments, or they get called out or they get canceled. I've worked with several men who have been canceled to help them become safe people to be in community again.
Mm.
And all of this work, just like you said, like we're all one. And the sexuality piece to me is so vital because it's where our life force is. Like that is literally where life comes from. and our creativity is birthed there. And so much of the fullness of our expression is in the connection of our genitals, our sacral chakra, and our throat. And if we want to be a good leader, and if we want to lead with love, and we want to be fully expressed and actually let things come out, we can't be squeezed up and like holding on to everything down here. And we can't be closed in one place and open in the other. There's actually really beautiful images and videos online now that you can see when the throat is opening, the other sphincters are also opening. And when you do practices that help you to open both of them, then you can actually be more fully expressed both in sex and at work. I like to say from the boardroom to the bedroom and everywhere in between, I will help you be more fully expressed.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It makes so much sense. Hopefully it makes sense to our listeners. It makes so much sense to me. And it is amazing work, and I honor you and I thank you for what you're doing. I love you deeply. I will not go into details of how we met because I don't think it's appropriate for the podcast. But I just adore you. You are such an inspiration to me, and I definitely will continue to support your work and support you and work with you. And yes, I'm so excited that I was able to have you here today. I would love for you to tell our listeners how they can find you and anything else that you want them to know about living a fully expressed life.
What I want everyone to know about living a fully expressed life is that you can start in this moment. You don't have to wait to be more fully expressed. I believe, I've been calling myself, I can't believe we got to the end of the podcast without me saying this. I call myself a pleasure permissionary. But whether it's pleasure or anything else, I'm here in this moment, literally giving you permission to be more expressed right now. Yes. And a lot of it starts with just letting yourself make sound. So just take a deep breath with me and just let a big sound come out. And let your body move with that sound. Yes. It's so joyful. That's the thing that if I can leave you with anything is that being more fully expressed means being more alive. And being alive means being filled with joy and filled with love. And so I'm going to sing us a song to take us home. It's my next single coming out called Fill My Soul with Love.
I love it.
Before I sing that, though, the way you can find me, my website is tapintofreedom.love. My songs are all on Spotify or wherever you listen to music. I have a bunch of videos up on YouTube. I have over 200 guided meditations available on Insight Timer. And I do this like full expression coaching. I teach classes called Tap Into Your Voice. And I'm not sure when this will air, but I'll be at a festival called Firelight in June. Will you be there, Leslie, at Firelight?
Absolutely. I've got my ticket.
Yes. Yes. So I'll be teaching at Firelight. I'll be teaching and performing at another festival called Full Bloom. And I'm calling in 2 new opportunities right now, which I'm going to say before I sing. And the first, I have such a clear vision of myself being a global sought-after medicine, musician, and guide. And so the invitation is if you like my music, you like this podcast, bring me on your retreats. Take me to the beautiful tropical places with you and let me serve you medicine and guide you in music and give you all of the love and fill you up that way.
Amazing. I love that.
Yes. And this song is called Fill My Soul with Love. And I really love to sing it. All right. Fill my soul with love. Fill my soul with love. Fill my soul with the love that I know. Fill my soul with love. Fill my soul with love. Fill my soul with joy. favorite one, pleasure. Fill my soul with pleasure. Fill my soul with pleasure. Fill my soul with the pleasure I know. Fill my soul with pleasure. Fill my soul with pleasure. Ooh, 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 ooh. Fill my soul with love. Fill my soul with love. Fill my soul with the love that I know. Fill my soul with love. Fill my soul with love.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You are just amazing. I love your songs. You have a beautiful voice. Thank you, Victoria, for being here with us today. This is Living Off Script, and we will see you next time.